Asif Mahmood. I will be teaching you F9. The paper has a name, this is financial management, but ACCA call it F9. I don't know what exactly F9 means, but some of us says that F stands for fundamental and 9 is the paper 9. But there was a time when students used to call it Furious 9, but some of us has made it Fearless 9. I will be uploading the videos in the YouTube. I will share it on my Facebook page. And what you need to do, if you want to pass, you need to see what I actually delivered to you. My notes will be uploaded in my Google Drive, and I will be giving you the techniques you need to pass in F9. Wait a minute. Why I use this word techniques? Okay, could you please tell me how many months you have to pass in F9? Maximum 6 months. But I can bet that you will read only 2 months or 3 months or 5 months. Now, if I ask you, is 5 months enough to be a financial manager? Obviously, 100% of you guys will give you the answer, no. Definitely, 5 months is not enough to become a financial manager. Yes, we just need to pass, we just need to gather the relevant knowledge, and we will use the knowledge in P4, and again, we will be using the knowledge gathered from F9 and P4 in our professional life. Thank you. F9, financial management. Now we will see how many questions are there. Yes, ACCA F9 has 100 marks. There will be 20 MCQs to each 40 marks, and rest of 60 marks will come from answering theory and giving the examiner the calculations. In 60 marks, there will be 5 questions. And from 5 questions, 2 questions will be 15 each and 3 questions will be 10 each. Remember, there is no optional question. So, if you need to pass, do we really need to answer 100? Some of us tell that, yes, obviously you need to answer the 100, but I will tell you, no, you don't need to answer 100. What do we need to do? You just need to find out 50 hidden marks. Now, why I call it hidden marks? Some of us say that, yes, the question was a bit difficult, but some of us say that, no, it was easy. But is it really difficult or easy? Is ACCA is like me or you guys? ACCA is 100 years old professional body, and it produces thousands of millions of professional accountant over its life. Now, why ACCA will make an easy questions for you and why ACCA will make another difficult question for another one? No, ACCA has strong ethics in place. What I have seen in my ACCA journey, that ACCA always hide 50 easy marks into the question, and you just need to find out those 50 marks to pass. That's it. I can challenge you guys, if you answer exactly 60, and if you say that, yes, I am confident that from 60 I will get 60, and definitely you will get 60 or near it. No, this is not a joke. You don't need to laugh. ACCA always work for the best. He will not hurt anybody. Now we will be watching what contents F9 has. I don't know what examiner said his latest structure, but so far I remember the content was financial function, financial environment, working capital, investment appraisal, cost of capital, foreign currency, and risk. Now, these are the bullshits. What is the benefit of reading those separation of this paper? Always remember, 100 marks will come up as 100 marks. The marks won't tell you that, oh, hello, I am from the cost of capital, oh, hello, I am from the investment appraisal. These are the separation, but this separation will help you guys to understand, okay, fine, how many I have learned. The MCQs can be from anywhere. The MCQ can be a calculation, can be a theory, can be a common sense, and obviously the rest of 60 marks will be knowledge, analytical ability, and the calculation you need to perform. And there is a good news, like financial accounting, financial management has no structure, no rules that yes, you will follow this structure and you will follow this structure for this. No, you just have to give you the understand, yes, I know this. You just have to prove, yes, I know this. An examiner will tell you, yes, I know that you can pass. He will give you the pass mark. So, shall we start? If I go to the fundamental of financial management, can anybody tell me what is finance? Yes, finance is the money. So, financial activities is the money related activities. So, what is financial management? Definitely, this is the money related management. Now, if I ask you, if I give you 100 taka or $100 today, what will you do? Now, you can buy an ice cream, or you can give a treat to your friend, or you can give something to your girlfriend. Maybe you will do something, but you won't waste or you won't throw that $100. Now, you are doing financial management each and every day. So, let me guess, what I do in every morning. So, when I go to the office, I check, wait a minute, do I carrying the wallet with me? Okay, obviously I do have wallet. Wait a minute, do I have necessary money? And incurring expenses every day, I think that, okay, fine, what will I do tomorrow? What will I do next month? And before next month come, I think that, wait a minute, how many income source I have and how many new source of expense I am facing day to day. So, if ABC company is a business, ABC company, what will ABC company will do? He will manufacture some products and he will sell those products. That's it. And that's what every business does each and every day. Now, a financial manager needs to think, yes, how many income sources we have, how many pockets from which we can steal the money, and how many profitable investment we have to generate more money. So, financial management deals with sourcing money and investing those money. So if I add something, I will say that sourcing money from cheapest source and investing money into the highest profit generating source. And that's what is the financial management. Or in other way, I can tell financial management as financial management is the activities performed by a financial manager. With the financial management, I am telling you a word so many times, that is financial manager. Why? Yes, there is a reason. When you will be answering F8, that is Audit and Assurance, your writing must have to be seem like the writing of an auditor. When you will be answering F7, your calculations, your knowledge must have alignment with the knowledge of an accounts officer or accounts director or manager, whatever you say. Whenever you are answering P3, that is business analysis, your writings must have to seem like analyst. So this is financial management. Your writing shall be written by a financial manager and your knowledge applied within the answers. Your thinking capabilities used within the answers must have alignment with the thinking of a financial manager. That's why I'm telling you that. So before you go to any paper, before you do any question, you have to think, wait a minute, who am I? Okay, I'm answering F9, I'm the financial manager. So if you can think like a financial manager, 50% of your labor is successful already. Thank you for choosing F9, and I really thank you for choosing F9. Now we will be watching what is financial management objectives. Each and every person within the world has a set of objectives. I do have, you do have, and a company obviously do have. But before I go to what is financial management objective, I would like to discuss a thing which is called strategy. Could you see? Yes, strategy. Now, could you please define me what is strategy? Strategy is a plan. Strategy is an action plan. Strategy can be an action plan to make someone happy. Strategy can be an organization's day-to-day activities action plan to make someone happy. And if I define the word strategy, I may need to write something else. I will write strategy is a long-term direction. Strategy is a long-term direction to pursue, I don't know whether this spelling is correct or wrong, to pursue organization's ultimate goal using its resources with the aim of fulfilling shareholders' expectation. Yes, strategy is a set of action to achieve your ultimate target, and maybe one of your target is to make happy your shareholders. But dear friends, we have grown up. Instead of using shareholders, we will use the word stakeholders. And I will be defining what is stakeholders. Maybe already you know this. Stakeholders are a group of people, or stakeholder can be anything which can affect or be affected by the organization's course of action. And if I go back to the definition of this financial management, financial manager have some duty to do. Financial manager will not always make shareholders happy. He has some other responsibilities to some group of people who is related to the organization, and we will be discussing more later. So we was on what is financial management objective. So if you are the financial manager, what will you think? Okay, you will earn or you will gather the money from the cheapest source and you will invest it high profit generating source. So there is a name, profit, and maybe financial management objective is maximizing shareholders' profit. But some people came forward and argued that this sentence, maximizing shareholders' profit, cannot be the ultimate objective of financial management. And some people say, why? And they answered that if you run behind profit maximization, you will invest in riskier investment. And from the theory, we know higher the risk, higher the return. So, if you run after the profit, you may have to run after the risk, and if you go beyond your risk appetite, your company may be insolvent. And if your company may be insolvent, then as a financial manager, you will be the failure because your company is not in a survival condition. And those people came forward. They told that no, shareholders' profit maximization cannot be the ultimate objective of financial manager, whereas financial management's main objective is maximization of shareholders' wealth. So, wait a minute, what is the difference between profit and wealth? I mean, if profit is being increased, then it will be sent to the pocket of shareholders. Let's go back to the paper F4. In F4, you may have read the definition of share. And in F4, we have defined the share as share is a stake or ownership of someone in any company which is measured by the sum of money. So, if I am the shareholders and I own a company's share, then theoretically I am the proportionate owner of that company. If any company has 1 million shareholders, then 1 million person is the owner of that company. And yes, that is the reason that if you only increase the profit, if you only increase the risk of your company, you will be insolvent. And if you will be insolvent, all of your money, all of the money came from the company will be given to the loan holders or your payables. So what you have? No, you really have nothing when you are insolvent, really insolvent. And we already know the definition of going concern. And going concern concept says that your company may need to run for foreseeable future. And I won't go after what is foreseeable future. In my opinion, foreseeable future is looking forward 1 year. If you can ensure that your company can be solvent in next year, and in next year you will have to ensure that your company will be solvent in next year, another next year. So those people came forward who made the debate that no, shareholders' profit maximization cannot be the ultimate objective. The ultimate objective is the shareholders' wealth maximization. And they have given a clue. They said that if you try to increase the shareholders' wealth maximization, your profit will be automatically increased. So if you try to think that yes, not only I will increase my profit, I will increase my share price, I will increase the value of the company, then you will consider the profit, the risk factor, and other related factor which influence the profit and wealth, that is share price of a company. There will be a note written by me from the help of so many writers, and I will always try to discuss the thing, and I will relate this with the real life. And if you have any confusion, please inbox me, please write in my page, and I will clear your confusion as I get into this. So, we have learned what is financial management's objective.
Hi, this is Dave. So, let's have a look at the human resource management in this particular chapter. So, before we move any further, I'd like to talk to you about a little bit about the human resource management. So, what do I mean by human resource? Are just to be the human beings. So, we're going to manage those human beings within your organization in order for them to work for you, to make money for you. But the question is, how are we going to make sure that the employees within those companies are working for their shareholders to make money for those shareholders? Okay, so here's the question. The first question being, human resource, which means the employees within the company, will have to spend a lot of money into recruiting those employees and paying for them, so such as the reward, etc., etc. So that should we cheat those human resource as the expense, or should we cheat those human resource, which is the employees, as an asset for the company? What do you think? You can argue that it's an expense because we have to pay lots of things for them in order for them to work for us. But maybe you can argue that they are the assets for the organisation, because we can use those human resources, which is the employees, to work for our company and generate into economic benefit to a company. So that's an asset for the company. Okay, so the modern view about the human resource management is where we're going to treat those employees within a company as an asset to a company, rather than just the cost burden for the organisation. And hence, how are we going to manage those human resources are particularly important for the organisations nowadays. From the traditional point of view, the human resource department especially is going to deal with the recruitment and firing of the employees if you're not doing a good job. Also, we're going to pay the salary for you and jobs done. So that's from the traditional perspective. But from the modern view's perspective, how we're going to manage those human resources is particularly important for the organisation. So let's start having a look at this particular chapter. So we're going to talk about the human resource management, or HRM for short. So when talking about the HRM, there are particularly 4 issues I'd like to talk to you about. So firstly, we're going to discuss from the modern view's perspective, what are the roles of the human resource department especially. Of course, I'm going to use a mnemonic here for the roles of the human resource department is I'm going to use phases. Yeah, we need to have phases so that those rows are called phases. So let's look at what are they then. So F, A, C, E and S. So the first row of the modern human resource department is called the facilitator row. This means that the human resource department is not only dealing with the recruitment as well as the firing of the employees within the organisation and pay for them salary, but also we are going to be responsible for the training to those employees. So a common example I like to talk to my student is about when your organisation is going to expand your businesses overseas. You're going to set up subsidiaries overseas. You need to have an accountant to deal with the foreign exchange risk. Okay, differences. Foreign exchange risk hedging. So you need to have that technique. As a result of that, you can talk to the human resource department. Can you find a particular expert for our department to deal with the forex risk changes? Well, maybe the human resource management department, human resource department is going to help you out in that particular issue. So that's the first row of the modern human resource department. The second row is what I mean by audit row. So, what do I mean by audit row is where the human resource department is particularly focusing on the policies within the organisation. So one of the examples I like to give my student is that in the manufacturing industry, manufacturing companies, they've got lots of these health and safety policies in there. So each of these departments, particularly for the production department, has to follow. Otherwise, maybe the product will get, damaged. Maybe the employees will get hurt if they're not going to stick to that policy. And hence the human resource department here is going to make sure that those of the departments are making sure those departments are complying with the policies that we've set for the organisation, okay, across the whole organisation. So that's the second row. The third row stands for consultancy row. So the consultancy row for the human resource department is to deal with the specific issues that may arise within the organisation. So for example, maybe within the one of the departments, so such as the marketing departments, there will be 2 particular persons there, person A and person B. because we reward those marketing staff based upon their performance normally. So for example, if you can make a sales revenue of $10 million, I'm going to give you a bonus of 5%. But because of this bonus issue, that the person A and person B fails, that is not fair for them individually. So that they argue with each other, and then they trying to, screw at each other as well. How to solve this particular problem? Maybe you're going to raise this issue to the human resource department. They're trying to make sure that to see whether or not the reward that is set to those employees within that marketing department is fair. If it is not fair, of course, I'm going to give you some of the ideas of how to set the fair bonuses or remuneration to those staff within that department as well. So that's the third row of the human resource department. The fourth row of the human resource department is the executive row. So, which means the human resource department is going to deal with some of the execution bits and pieces within the organisation. So, for example, that the human resource department is going to deal with the succession planning within the organisation. So, for example, who would be the next of our chairman within the organisation? Who would be the next marketing director within the organisation? So maybe this is hands-on to the issue to the human resource director within the board. So succession planning is what I mean by we're going to deal with who will be the next generator for the current position. Okay, so the next of our issue is that the human resource department is also dealing with the wages, going to set up how much we're going to pay for the employees within the organisation. Deal with the leadership management, making sure that the leaders within one particular department has sufficient capacity as well as competence to lead this particular department into success. Also deal with the organisational redesigns, making sure that the organisation is flexible, so for example. Because this is particularly important nowadays, because for example, if you are a startup company, of course, very much focusing on the executive board, which is the CEO within the company, because the startup company will face a lot of these changes daily. So they have to react to those changes quickly. So that we're going to focus upon the executive directors rather than following a series of procedures in place. So if you are manufacturing industry companies, for example, surely very, very much focus upon the procedures that you set up. Because you're making the standardized products daily. If you're not going to stick to that standard, surely your products is not good. So we are going to say whether or not your company has the correct or appropriate organizational structure. That will be very, very important for the organization. So we're going to allow the human resource department to deal with this particular issue. And finally, the human resource department will have the service row as well. So what do I mean by service row? Is that the human resource department is going to deal with the compliance issues. This means that, of course, we'll have to make sure that the company is complying strictly with the laws and regulations in their country. If this is not the case, for example, that the employees are not paid at a rate that is above the minimum wages set by the laws and regulation. For example, the laws says you have to pay at least $10 to the employee, but you actually pay $8 to the employee. So what happens is that the employee may sue you and of course it will affect your reputation within your organisation. That's not good. So those are the roles of the human resource department. Okay, so that's on the left hand side. So once you've looked at the roles, it's called phases, yeah, on the left hand side. We now move on to how the human resource department actually performs daily within the organisation. Is what we're going to look at another terminology. It's called the human resource cycle, or HR cycle if you prefer. So it simply talks about that how the human resource departments may perform daily within the organisation. So I'm going to use a mnemonic as well for the human resource cycle. It's my own mnemonic. It's called RECITE. RESITE. So let's see what are the meanings for each of these characters in turn with regards to human resource cycles. So it's the RE, S, I, T, and E. So I'm going to move the I smaller. Okay. So let's say what are the meanings for each of these characters in turn. So first R is what I mean by recruitment. So what do I mean by recruitment is that you as the employee or potential employee to the company is looking for a job, so that you're going to say, well, I'd like to be an accountant, I want to be an auditor. So that you're going to send a CV or your curriculum vitae to that particular audit firm, for example. So it's up to the human resource department within that particular company or firm to see whether or not we should recruit you, we should employ you as the employee to a company. So receiving your CVs and trying to see whether or not you're competent, whether or not you're fulfilling my requirements, etc. That's the third stage, which is the recruitment. And once you pass the recruitment stage, we're going to move on to the next is what I mean by selection. So the simple idea behind the selection is that, for example, there are 10 employees who has handed in their CV to the company, but I've only got one particular job in my company, so I only select one out of these 10. That's what I mean by selection. The third stage, which is the induction stage. So what do I mean by induction stage? Is that after I've decided to recruit you as the employee to my company, I'm going to give you a welcome, a particular short introduction of our company to try to familiarize yourself of what is my company's all about. So for example, my company, here in my company, we are doing the online courses. We are doing the online accountancy courses to students from all around the world. So I'm going to give you a short introduction to our company, what it's all about, and what sort of things that you need to be aware of when working within the organisation. So that's what I mean by induction. And the next one is what I mean by training. Development, as well as appraisal. So, what do I mean by training? So, for example, you want to be an auditor, you work in an audit firm, no problem for that whatsoever. But maybe before you work as an auditor in that particular firm, you have no idea of what is audit. So I'm going to train you as the auditor. I'm going to give you lots of these working papers showing you how can you audit the non-current asset, how can you audit the cash balances within a company, how can you audit this and how can you audit that. So that's what I mean by training. And what do I mean by development is that not only I'm going to train you the specialized knowledge that you need to know, but also I like you to be a leader for our department. So what are the traits or what are the characteristics that the leader should have? So I'm going to develop yourself as the leader for our company. Okay. Also, we're going to talk about the career development as well in later section later on. So after I train you and develop you within the organisation so that you're working as the employee to an organisation, so I have to see whether or not you're actually competent. So for example, you're the sales manager within our company. You promises to our shareholder that you will make $20 million of sales revenue during this year. But at the end of the year, when I received the results for the sales revenue, they're just to be $10 million rather than $20 million that you promised before. So that there's a gap between these two, suggests the fact maybe you haven't done a good job. So that I'm going to appraise your job. If you have done a good job, I'm going to give you more bonuses, for example, more share options, for example. But since you haven't done a good job in this particular case, maybe I'm going to downgrade you as the sales staff rather than sales manager. So that's what I mean by appraisal. Okay. So finally, of course, we're going to look at E, is what I mean by the employee termination. So we're going to talk about a lot of forms of the employee termination in a later section. But just an overview of the employee termination is that maybe from a company's perspective, we think that you're not competent to work for a company anymore. As a result of that, of course, you're not competent anymore, so that you shouldn't work for a company. So I'm going to sack you. That's what I mean by employee termination. Okay. So those are the cycles of the human resource management. Is what I mean by reside. As you can see, the mnemonics is what the human resource department actually does daily within the organisation. And of course, within each of these stages within the human resource cycle, we are going to have a plan before we actually dip into anything further. So that the third thing we're going to talk about is the human resource plan for the organisation. So this plan will be included in each of these stages within the human resource cycle in turn. The plan, how we're going to set the plan, of course I have my own mnemonics as well, and this mnemonic is called GSAM. Okay. So first G stands for, so let me just write the character here, GSAM. So G stands for the gap analysis. So we have to identify the gap analysis. For example, for the recruitment and selection, we're going to identify the labour supply as well as the labour demand. So for example, we demand the labour is to be 5 employees we're going to recruit, but the supply is to be 10. We only need 5, but there's 10 outside. Of course, we're going to select those employees, yeah? We're going to select the employees, maybe sticking to a higher standard. So for example, not only, because there's more supply than the demand, so you're applying for the job as the management accountant here. For example, because there's more supply than the demand, so that I'm going to increase my standard. For example, not only you need to get the ACCA qualification, but also you need to get the SIMA qualification as well in order to be successfully applied for this particular position. Okay, so that's why by performing the gaps analysis, identifying the labour supply as well as the labour demand, we are going to say what's the gap between these two, and this will impact onto the actual plan within the recruitment as well as the selection process within the human resource cycle. And also, for example, if we're going to look at the training development as well as the appraisals, for example. So, you set up a company overseas in India. So, for example, you're based in UK, but you set up a company in India. So, when you are, trying to get the money from the India into your country, so your UK, of course, you're going to retranslate all those foreign currency into your home currency, which is the UK pound. And hence, you're going to deal with some of the forex risk hedging with regards to this particular currency you're going to receive or pay. So from this perspective then, there's a training need. There's a training needs for your organization to deal with that hedging. So that, of course, by identifying that gap of your needs, you're going to identify who's going to provide you with those knowledge in order to hedge against that risk. We're going to determine appropriate strategy of how to do that later on. Okay, so those are the plan with regards to each of these cycles in turn. Let's look at the second one, which is the S. So S stands for the strategy of the organization. So when we are setting up the plan, it's particularly important that you're going to focus upon the strategy. For example, here at APCA, we want to be a market leader within the online accountancy courses field. That's our strategy. But we lack of lecturers here. So that from the human resource department's perspective, we are going to recruit those lecturers to provide the online courses in order to finally become a market leader into the online accountancy field. So, based upon the strategy, we're going to recruit the experts, lecturers, in order finally reach the strategy, reach the destination we want to be. That's what I mean by S. And A stands for a job analysis. For example, you like to recruit one particular auditor that is specializing in auditing the financial instruments rather than the simple PPE within the client's company. So you're going to recruit that experts, no problem for that whatsoever. So before you're doing that, of course, you're going to set out the job description to that particular applicant, saying to him or her that what you should do if you are the auditor within an audit firm. So we're going to analyze the job, providing him or her with the job descriptions, for example, in order for him or her to work for a company more efficiently. Of course, the M stands for we're going to monitor the changes continuously. Making sure that we're going to continuously analyze the gap analysis, which is the, for example, the supply as well as the demand. We're going to see where not our company is lack of employees. We need to recruit more in order to produce a product. So you're going to monitor that changes continuously, but making sure that you're focusing on the strategy that the company has. What does the company want to be? That's the most important thing for the organisations nowadays. Okay, so those are the roles and cycle and plan of the human resource department, of how we're going to manage the human resources asset within the organisation. Of course, in the next of our section, we're going to be looking at the detailed bits and pieces with regard to each of these cycles in turn, to see what are the things included in each of these cycle and how we're going to deal with them in the real life as well.